Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see you here. My name is Sandy Schiefer. I'm a librarian here. I work for the Columbia Missourian newspaper. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. It's produced by the journalism school by the students. So I work over there at that library. But I also have been, excuse me, government documents reference librarian for quite a few years. What we're going to talk today is about evaluating the news. We're all tired of the phrase fake news. Everyone talks about it. The president to Congress to politicians, newscasters. So we're going to talk today somewhat about identifying fake news, but then we're going to look at tools that will help you evaluate the news and the information you see online to track it backwards and see if there's any truth to what we're seeing. So what is fake news? Usually it's false or inaccurate information intended to deliberately deceive. People write these stories. Sometimes they're called trolls, and they're trying to bias you. They're trying to influence your thoughts and how you view the information. So it isn't just bad news, but also stuff that's unresearched, full of errors, misleading. And a lot of times you get the news, come on in, through social media. And sometimes it just all of a sudden invokes a really strong emotion in you, the viral news. And sometimes that's a clue that maybe this claim is not true, because it wants you to feel emotion instead of using your brain to evaluate the news. It's nothing new. These are articles from the 1890s, newspaper articles. And even back then, they were claiming that a lot of the information out there was fake. And our newspaper doesn't publish fake news. Well, our paper doesn't either. But it's nothing new to the United States or anywhere. It's okay to question what you see on the internet. It says here, internet is the air we breathe and the water we drink. It invades our lives, and we take it for granted. But again, not everything you see on the internet is true. We know that. And we're going to show you tools to help you decide if it's a good question. Google and Facebook know all about you. They know your address, your age, what your political leanings are, what you like to buy and shop for. And we tend to look at information that we know and that fulfills our expectations of what we expect to see. So when Google returns results, those results are tailored to who it thinks you are. So even when you're going to Google, if you Google something and your friend Googles the same thing, you're probably going to get different results because it tailors them to you. So you have to be careful, even using Google to get information. So if you've got an article or a news site, there's several tips that you can do. Does the headline match the actual article? Often headlines are written to grab us and pull us in so we read the article. And some people, that's all they read is the title of the article. So you want to dive into the article itself and see if it really matches, if the headline is correct. What kind of website is it on? You can always look at the URL. Look at it's a .com, which is a company, or a .edu, which is a university or educational institution. So you can get an idea of who created this website and if they're reliable. Check the date. Sometimes articles are reposted years later, and you don't understand that the information is old. It doesn't really apply to right now. Look at the sponsors and advertisements on the site. Often they're sort of hidden. It's hard sometimes to pull them out. There may just be a light blue background that's around the advertisements or the sponsors. Sometimes there's just a little caption that says, paid for by someone. So you have to understand that these are not news, but these are people trying to sell you something. Not necessarily products, but they're trying to sell you information. Another thing you can do is check to see if someone else has reported the story. If you can't find anyone else that has looked at that, has written about that topic, then it may be false. Maybe they, the first ones, and they have breaking news. But usually when breaking news, someone else is going to write about that particular topic. Look at the data. If it talks about a study or polls, go back and look at that, trace it back to the data and see if it supports the article. One of the first things we can look at is misleading websites. And here's a few examples over here. .co is from the country Colombia, but they sell websites to anyone who wants them. So be careful of domains that end in .co. And even whitehouse.org. You think, oh, that's White House, that has to be reliable. Well, anybody can get a .org website. It isn't not just nonprofits and think tanks. You can see on here the most popular ones, and but in that little tiny, right below the red line on the right, it says sponsorship resources, and it's easy to miss. So I went to AmericanPresident.co, and you can tell by just reading the headlines, this is meant to evoke a reaction. Want to silence your liberal friends in 17 seconds flat? So you get the idea there that this is a pretty conservative website, and they're going to try and convince you to see things in their light. What you can do is you find a website and you're not sure who created it. Sometimes you go to the About Us page or the Contact Us page, and it will give you information about the organization, but they can lie. You can put anything you want on your website. So who.is is a place to check an actual domain and to see who owns it. So I looked up AmericanPresident.co, the site we just looked at, and who.is. And it shows you that it was registered on March 2017, so it's pretty recent. Further down on the page, it will show you the contact information of who created this website or who owns the domain for this website, the AmericanPresident.co. And you can see it's someone in Georgia, the country of Georgia. What do they know about the American president? I'm not saying that someone from Georgia isn't aware of what the American president is doing, but it's not something he would usually put up a legitimate website. And if you look at the email, the .ru is Russia. So we're getting a little conflicting information here. And you may want to dig a little deeper into the site to see if it's something that you can trust. But this gives us a few red flags. Here's another one. This is ETF, which was ending the Fed, the Federal Reserve. So since Donald Trump won the presidency, Ford shifts truck production from Mexico to Ohio. What a great idea. That now we have more jobs for this country, for the citizens of this country. Heavy-duty pickup trucks. Look at the date, November 14th, 2016. When was Donald Trump elected president? November, was it 7th or 8th? I can never remember. A week before. So do you really think, he's not even president yet. So do you really think he influenced this? And since he won the presidency, so a whole week later, he's gotten this company to shift their pickup truck assembly line. Here's the original article, back in 2015. So someone took that exact article, the text is exactly the same for both of them, and actually the main headline is the same, or they use the caption on this picture. But they changed the date to confuse you and added that extra headline to really bring it to you. Oh, look what he has done in the time, and in a week, he has done this. So you need to look at the date and also look for the article itself. Was it published somewhere somewhere else? There is a book or an online PDF called Web Literacy for Student Fact Checkers. It is excellent book. It goes into a lot more detail than we have time to cover today, but it talks about strategies, checking for previous work. Who is the author on a particular article? What else have they done? Also look at previous work by a particular website or an organization to see what other types of information they have produced over time. Go upstream. That means sort of go backwards. You see where it was published, go backwards and again, find that article somewhere else. Find information about the author. Find information about the data. Go upstream and see where this information comes from so you can evaluate the site. Read laterally. That means to check out other information about the same site. And circle back. If you're finding dead ends, use the information you've already found and kind of reevaluate your site or information. These are some fact-checking sites that I use all the time. Factcheck.org, Snopes. Snopes is pretty common. They mainly do viral stories and urban legends. Does anybody know what an urban legend is? Familiar with that term? It's a story that people, let's see, I'm trying to think of an example. A woman has 10 snakes that come up her drain, her bathtub drain. So you have to be careful about your bathtub. You're going to have snakes come up. And people repeat the story over and over again until it becomes a legend and people believe it. So Snopes takes, a lot of them are silly stories, but people still believe them. So Snopes goes in and tries to verify and evaluate the story. PolitiFact and PunditFact deal more with political issues. What a politician actually said, and what are their stance on issues? Does it match what they've said before? When they give a speech on something, or have a quote in a newspaper, they want to check if the person actually said this, and if their messages are consistent from one place to another. What about Wikipedia? Is that a good place to fact check? It's actually a good place to start. And there are many editors on Wikipedia that try to keep the correct information. Wikipedia is a great place to get an idea about a topic or gather facts about something. But it's not some place that you want to cite in your paper. Another thing about Wikipedia is usually at the bottom in the resources are lots of good links that you can look at. Some of them are legitimate websites or to the origin of some of the facts. So those links at the bottom can lead you to more reliable sources. Often there's newspaper articles about the topic, and those are in the links. One thing we want to look at is politicians' stance on issues. There's a site called On the Issues. It says every political leader on every issue. Well, I don't know if they're quite that comprehensive, but they have lots of good information. Eric Greitens is our governor, and I wanted to know what he felt about gun control. So On the Issues, let me look that up. It also links, as you can see here, to the full quote and the source. Where did this source come from? Where did the quote come from? A newspaper article? Was it an interview on NPR? Was it one of their campaign speeches? So On the Issues goes backwards and finds the source of information. It also explains those issues in plain language so you can understand the pros and cons and the conflicts and the different sides of the issues. So it isn't just quotes by the politicians, but also a discussion of the topic itself. And On the Issues, that same site, you can see that there's a summary of all his issues on Eric Greitens. You can go to Ballotpedia, which is a place to go to see how people voted on particular issues, how politicians voted. So lots of useful links to other Missouri politicians. So it does help you follow an issue closely and see what other politicians might have said. How did they vote? If you want to know what Eric Greitens voted on, you can go to PolitiFact Missouri or Project Vote Smart. It keeps track of bills and laws that go through not just the state House and Senate, but the federal House and Senate. How did your senator vote on a particular bill? You want to know that. Who voted on a particular bill and who voted against it? So these sites will help you find those answers. Did she really say that? We talked earlier about finding a politician's stance on issues by using on the issues. But sometimes a politician makes a statement and you want to make sure that they actually said that statement. You can go to their website, usually have information and recordings of their speeches. YouTube is a great place to look because often if they're campaigning, there may be speeches, but then their campaign website goes away after they've been elected, and you want to track those down. So first go to their website, and then you can go to YouTube, and there's often copies of older speeches and conferences they did. And some of these are some of the other the same fact check sites that we looked at earlier. This quote by Claire McCaskill: "The White House has something in common with the rest of America, and that is disdain for Congress. It's hard to blame them." I looked this up. There's a quote website, and it just has quotes from all kinds of people. So I searched for McCaskill, and I ran across this quote, and I want to know, did she really say this? So first thing I did was Google it. I put in that quote in the Google, and you see some of them are quote fancy and AZ quotes. These are sites that collect quotes by different people, but it doesn't really tell you about where they came from. But that last one, Pundit Wire, and we looked at there, he has the quote and then the source, New York Times, August 18, 2014. So you can go to the New York Times and find the actual article in which she said this quote. So that's going backwards, backtracking to find the source. This is my favorite graph. Evaluating data, the number of gun deaths in Florida before and after they enacted Stand Your Ground law. So it looks like right after 2005, the gun deaths went way down. That's the impression you get from this, right? Can anybody tell me what's wrong with this graph? I'm sorry? Yes, the units are deceiving, and it's upside down. Usually 0 is at the bottom, and the higher numbers are at the top. So it gives you a false impression about the way the numbers are going. And this is the correct graph. And actually, the gun deaths went up after the Stand Your Ground law came into effect. I also went to the source, Florida Department of Law Enforcement. They exist. And I looked up the data, and they talked about the number of murders, but not which ones used firearms or how many were gun deaths. So someone took the information on their site and manipulated a little bit and added some information that wasn't included in the actual data. We see lots of images online. There was one recently with the floods that showed a guy running away from a shark that was in a parking lot. Pretty silly picture. But if you looked at it closely, you could see that the parking lot was only flooded about 3 inches, and a shark is much bigger than 3 inches tall. That's sort of a silly one. But you want to look at the photos and evaluate them to see if they're actually true. These are some of the ways you can do that. If there's odd coloring or the shadows don't match. You can do a reverse image search to find where that image came from. And there are some tools that you can use, like TinEye and FotoForensics, that we'll be looking at in a minute. FotoForensics, there we go. Every picture that is taken has metadata embedded in the picture. Usually the time and date it was taken, the type of camera, and other information, the software used. So FotoForensics is a site that will let you view that metadata. It also uses ELA, error level analysis, and I'll show you how that works. This one means you should look at the different edges. Do they look right? Or does it look like they have been photoshopped in? Are the textures the same? Like a whole entire basketball, does it look like a basketball? So this is a picture. How many of you heard the things, hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil? And there's a picture of the tree thing. And then someone found this picture of people on a subway. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Wow, what a coincidence. On the right is the error level analysis. It can show you where things have been touched up. So with this one, you see that white area, and it matches up to the face mask on the one gentleman on the bus. So that gives you the clue that that was added afterwards. It was edited and retouched. Here's another one. You can see from the white that part of it has been altered, but what did they take out? His shadow. I don't know why, but for some reason they moved the shadow on here. And that's another thing to look for, is the shadows. Do they match up? Does the shadow from the airplane match the shadow from the stuff with them? But that ELA lets you see what area of the photograph was altered. This is the metadata that comes with it. And look at the software, Adobe Photoshop. It tells you right there that this image has been altered using Photoshop. Not every metadata will have that information in it. Here's another one. Tens of thousands of fraudulent Clinton votes found in Ohio warehouse. Christian Times newspaper. You can look that up. Go to their website, see about us. Use who.is to find out who actually owns that website and how long it's been in business. So I did a reverse image search on here, and the thing that came up was fake news masterpiece. And what I talked about going laterally is see if someone else has been written about this particular article or image. And sometimes that's easier than doing all the work yourself. See if someone else has done that work for you. So this was just a random picture of ballots that this guy used. And this Christian Times, that he created a whole website just to earn money. And on the website, he put lots of emotive, full of emotion articles that would get more and more people to his website. So he created this just to make money. And he used that random picture that he found on the internet. So the picture has not been altered, but it was used in the wrong context. It's just some information that I was just saying about the last one. There was a plane crash. Airlines was shot down, and supposedly it landed in Donetsk, Ukraine. Now, if you look at this picture, there's lots of things that we can look at on here. For one thing, it doesn't look very big. 295 dead. Do you think 295 people could fit on that airplane? Here's some other clues. I looked at Donetsk, maybe mispronouncing that, Ukraine, and there are no beaches. And the plane was crashed on a beach. It's in the middle of a country. And who's the man in the suit and the other people there if there were no survivors? So there's different ways on the right there that you can look at the image and evaluate it. One of them is in the metadata. It had GD Graphics Library. I Googled GD Graphics Library, and it's a photo editing tool. This is the original photo. It's actually from the TV show Lost. Somebody came in, changed the logo on the airplane, and posted it as a real photograph from the crash. Even photos that have not been altered can be misread. This one, an anti-immigrant group, looked at this picture and thought it was several women in full burqas. It's not, it's just bus seats. But even images that have not been altered can confuse and fool you. For video, there's a tool called InVID, and you can actually plug it in to your browser And if you have a video that you want to check, you just right-click on this tool in your browser, and it will allow you to look at it frame by frame, do a Twitter search, and look at it closely with a magnifier. Another topic I want to look at is you see a lot of science articles, health articles. They have found this most wonderful food that will make you healthy and strong and lose lots of weight. So there's, like anything else, you need to evaluate the article. You have to have a cat in every single PowerPoint. So there's my cat. So here's 2 headlines about this topic. Drinking tequila can help you lose weight. Great, I'm gonna go home and drink tequila all weekend, and then by Monday, I'm gonna lose all this weight. And the other one is a study. The sugars found in tequila could help you lose weight, not tequila itself. So I wanted to check out this claim. This is the first one. And you even see on the subheading, 1 tequila, 2 tequila, 3 tequila, your pants just hit the floor. Usually it would be 4 tequila. So even that headline just makes it seem like it's just a silly headline, as if just drinking tequila could help you lose weight. But then I went to the study itself, and again it says that sugars found in the plant can help you lose weight. And this is a scientific study that was done on this, and they actually have a link to the study. So you can go back and look at the study itself and verify that it's a good study and that the data is good. I also looked at the author. I used, I went to the link itself, and that was that top picture there. And it showed the actual article, and it's from phys.org, physics.org. That's probably a pretty reliable website. But I also wanted to check the author, who was M.G. Lopez. And you can see that he's also written other articles about fructose and agave. So you figure the article is probably pretty good, because if you're going backwards, you can see where it's from and who wrote it. What about a politician's claims? They claim something is true, like the thing we saw earlier about all these jobs that were created because of Trump's influence. PolitiFact is a nationwide organization, but they also have their own site that just covers Missouri. And they evaluate quotes, and they indicate whether they find out that it's true or false. And you can see that second one, they looked in the cost of Mar-a-Lago and looked at the Meals on Wheels budget for 2 years, and then compared them and found out that this quote was not true. They also have this at the bottom, pants on fire. It's a phrase in the United States, liar, liar, pants on fire. I don't know where it comes from or exactly what it means, but usually when you catch someone at a lie. So that's what they have, is there absolutely, definitely no truth to this claim. Finding people. Often you want to find information about a particular person. You want to look them up and see if they are who they're supposed to be. One of them is people.com, and I want to look up Brian Treese. He's the mayor of Columbia. A lot of journalists use this because you can see it also gives some of the relatives of this person. It lets you know where they live and other information. A lot of these sites will only give you basic information for free, and they ask you to pay for it. So that's why it's a good idea to try maybe another site and see what type of information you can get there. It lists all the places he has lived and some of the relatives. So it gives you a little bit of different information. I looked myself up, and it had me as a location as Denali National Park, Alaska. I lived there in 1992, and it knows that I lived there. I don't know how, but it's pulling this information from somewhere. It's amazing. It helps fun to go back and look at yourself on some of these sites and see what kind of information is out there. And one of the profiles had his house on it. Right there, that's where he lives. Sometimes you want information about local people. Again, for a lot of the journalists and reporters that come here. So there's information that you can get that's available for free online to anyone. You can find out what people own, if they have any cars, or do they drive a Mercedes or a Pinto? It's an old cheap car from years ago. What kind of property do they own? And this county information, you can find out their birth date. I looked again for Brian Treese, the mayor, and it shows you he was born in May of 1969. And that matches the 48 years age that we found on the other sites. So that's about all you can get there, but it helps to maybe identify someone by knowing their age. You can also look at their properties, and you can see he paid his bills, total due 000, and it finds out on the real estate what he owns. And down at the bottom there, it tells you what the address is. It also looks at what it was appraised value and how much they assessed it for when they paid, when they billed them for the taxes. And this gives you more information on their house. And there's another picture of the house. You can map it. And all of this is available for anyone that owns property in Boone County. You can also look at their personal property. This is a combination of the things they own: boats, boat trailers, motorcycles, campers, cars. And you can see that Brian Treese owns some outboard motors, a boat trailer. He drives a Lexus and a Ford Explorer. Looks like he has several boats. And their market value and what they are assessed for tax purposes. Verifying identity. As I showed earlier on one of the on the article about Tequila, and we looked at the study, we looked up the author. At that point, I used Google Scholar. It's scholar.google.com if you've never used that. It's a great place for academic articles, but will also let you trace someone to see if they're actually who they say they are. LinkedIn is a great place to go, because hopefully in LinkedIn, people have put the truth about who they are and what companies they work for and their experience. It also helps to find out who works at a particular company. And I hadn't thought about working backwards. I always thought you had to look up a person. But I looked up the Missouri State Library in Jefferson City, and I found some people that worked there. So you could do this for any company or organization. Social media, that's a great place to find information on someone, right? And there's different tools that you can use to evaluate tweets. EchoSec, we're not going to look at that today. And there's PolitiWhoops, which finds all those tweets that they put out there and then they deleted them because they were embarrassing or confusing. So I used this right here is Twitonomy. You have to log in with your own Twitter account in order to do this, and your account will be the first one that it analyzes. I did Donald Trump just out of curiosity to see what his tweeting behavior is like. It shows you how many tweets he's done. He has 37 million followers. That's a lot. And then in the analytics, you can see that how many tweets he tweets per day, almost 8 tweets per day. How many tweets were just in the last year. It also shows you what dates he tweeted the most. And October was right before the election. So that's when he was really tweeting a lot and wanted to get his message out there. You can also see who he retweeted. Fox and Friends. Fox is a pretty conservative news organization. You can see that. Dan Scavino, I'm not sure who that is, but you could look that up. Several different ways you could find out who that was. Fox News, sort of the same as Fox. And he retweets Ivanka Trump in the White House. It's just a fun place to go look at. Sometimes you think, well, I want to go back and follow someone, what they did before. I wanted to look up Jay Nixon. And he has an official website for now, but I want to know what he said when he had his campaign. Usually campaign websites disappear after someone is elected. But I wanted to see what he said. So I went to the site, jnixon.com, and this is what I got, the 404. There is a tool called the WAYBACK machine. It's with Internet Archive. What the WAYBACK machine does is it goes around the web and it takes snapshots of a site. It will look at a site and sort of take a picture or a snapshot of the site and all the links it has in it. So often you can find an old website at the WAYBACK machine. And there it is, this website. And this will show you there was only one snapshot of this in 2008. And you said on April 24th, you can see they took a picture. They captured this website. And the links still worked. So I could go into the issues, and I went to healthcare, and you can read what he said about those issues before he was elected. And maybe you can compare that to what he is saying now and see if he has been consistent in his message. Just Google it. There's different tools that Google offers. I mentioned Google Scholar. Google Trends lets you see what other people are searching right now. Google Images you can use to do a reverse image search. You can drag an image or put in a URL, and it will show you other places that have that particular image. Google Data Explorer is a good place to look for data if you're trying to verify a study. A few things that you can do on Google that you may not be aware of is you can indicate a file type. If you're looking for data on women in prison, but you want the data itself, you don't want a bunch of articles about it, you can just use file type :XLS. XLS stands for Excel, so it's generally a spreadsheet, and you can see if you can get the actual data in a table. Put quotes around phrases. The site is another one that I really like. Site:/gov. What that will do, it will only search government websites, and generally those are pretty reliable. .edu is another one because it's educational institutions. So you can limit your results to those types of sites. Here's some other sources that we have. The Internet Archive has lots of access to books and music and other information. We talked about the WAYBACK machine that archives entire websites. HathiTrust is another place that preserves information and access for books and articles that are in the public domain. The public domain means that there's no one that has a copyright on it at that time. It's free for the public to use. I mentioned Wikipedia. It's a good place to get background information on a topic and look at the references at the bottom to see if they can be useful. I mentioned earlier Web Literacy for Student Fact Checkers. This is a great book for you to evaluate and look at, because you can see on this list there are many other things that this PDF shows you that I don't have time to go over today. Finding an authority. There are many sites that let you find an authority. If you're wanting to do information, write a paper or write an article about a particular topic, how do you find an authority? Well, there are sites that will help you find someone who is an expert on that particular topic. It will help you verify Twitter. There are a lot of fake Twitter sites out there. There's about 40 that all have Donald Trump in them. And this will help you find the correct one for that particular person. We talked earlier about PolitiWhoops, that will look at, that saves all those deleted tweets that embarrass politicians. You can Google books to track down quotes. And you can get TV transcripts with Internet Archive that I mentioned in the last slide. There are resources here just for Missouri. There's agency databases that will that has lots of data information, and you can see some examples there. PolitiFact, Missouri, and Sunlight. Columbia and Boone County, these are some of the ones we went over. There's a research guide out there if you need to get information on Boone County. If you're writing a paper about how location and food deserts. Those locations where there's no place to walk to buy groceries. You can find information from some of these sites about spelling Columbia and Boone County. Verification Handbook is another great resource. Pointer is a journalism site that it also gives some great information on verifying and finding the credibility of information. Google News Lab will show you how to use some of these other Google tools that you may have not used before. It goes into reverse image search, Google Scholar, Street Map. You can also use Google Street Map to verify images. If they say that a picture was taken in a particular place, you can go into Google Street Maps and see if you can match up the image with a particular location. Some of the articles that I mentioned today. And here's some of the tools that we talked about. TinEye is another reverse image search that you can use instead of Google. I mentioned InVID, which is for video, which is kind of hard to do in a PowerPoint. So what we talked about today was different ways that you can evaluate. You need to think about the origin of the article, where it came from, who wrote it, what kind of site was there. Look critically at things. You have to be a little skeptical about what you read and what you see. But these tools can help you in your search for valid information. Are there any questions? Yes. The question was asked about a place to find rumors. Snopes.com is the best place for that. They do a lot of rumors that come out, and like I mentioned, viral videos and other topics that may not be true. So that's a good place to check for rumors. Any other questions? Any questions online? Yes. Okay. But to check the URL itself? Yeah. That's with whois.com. Who.is will let you look at the actual domain and see who owns it and when it was created and information about the site itself. Is that what you were asking?
I'm not sure how to use this to fact check. Because I'm not very sure about the URL. What was the
URL is a web address. Any web address that you have, cnn.com is a URL. It's called Uniform Resource Locator. Missouri.edu is a URL. So it's just a name for a web address. Okay. Any other questions? This workshop is recorded and will be available online if you need to go back and look at some of the information. If there are no other questions, oh yes. Yes. Yeah, we can put the PowerPoint will also be online, along with the recording of the session.
It's available on Alice Library?
Yes. Okay, thank you for coming. I appreciate your attention, and good luck on finding out the source of information and whether it's true. Thank you.